Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys liked the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward.
What's up, guys? Altcoin Sherpa here with a crypto market review. As always, this is not financial advice. I am not an expert. Do your own research. So today, let's just review BTC USD on the daily. Not really much changed over the last few days from my overall kind of plan. If you've seen my videos the last few weeks, you'll know that my plan has really remained the same. Let's break 46K to make a higher high, or let's break 34K to make a lower low. Nothing in between. Right now, what we're seeing is a ranging market structure um, where we're seeing higher lows and we're seeing lower highs. So you see a low printed in late January. This was around 33K, followed by a high that got set at 46K. We set another low at 34K, 34.4 late February, and we've since made a lower high. So when you see this type of market structure, usually it's just a consolidation and it's very indecisive. Um, you might see something like this where you like hit a low, a high, higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high, and it just starts to compress like this. This is a very common type of pattern that you see in the markets, and it's just compression, consolidation, and usually not really quite sure what to expect for the next big move. Personally, I'm still undecided. I just have bids lower, below 34K. I think that the high time frame market structure still is bearish. Like we're still seeing a high time frame bearish market structure with lower highs and lower lows. Um, but let's just see. Right now we're finally seeing some volatility. We are seeing bulls step in a little bit and defend some levels, whereas before this overall price action that we saw back in December and January was just a slow grind down where there wasn't really much buying at any level. Whereas here we're finally starting to see bulls defend some levels and actually have some pretty decent candles over this time period. Um, it's interesting to note that every single big push up that we've seen has gotten quickly retraced. We saw that back in early February and early or late February, and now we even saw a decent candle in early March as well. And this has swiftly been retraced. So for me personally, I'm really just waiting for a break of 34K or break of 46. I don't know what the next area of interest is going to be once these levels break. Well, I do. If 46K gets broken, then I'm targeting kind of the low mid 50Ks. I think that's probably going to happen eventually. I just don't know when. But because Bitcoin always squeezes higher than you think, like you always think it's just like going to hit 46K and then dump, which certainly could. But I do believe that 50K will eventually come. I just don't know how it's going to come, and that's going to be a good point to de-risk, depending on the market structure, of course. Um, but for me, like I'm really just waiting for a break of 46K or 34. So I'll highlight that a little bit more. Again, set the low back in early or late January, set a high back in early February, set a higher low back in late February, and set a lower high in late February. So if this does break 46K, then at that point you have a higher high. This would be a higher high relative to some of these other highs set in early mid February or early to late February, and you would also have higher lows. So at that point, this is, in my opinion, a bullish market structure on the daily, and that at that point you have to start really considering like the low 50Ks at that point, in my opinion. Whereas if we just break below this 33K or 34K area, at that point you have a lower high and you have lower lows. So, if price kind of dips below, has like a weak bounce and then nukes lower, at that point you just have a lower low set relative to late February, and then the market structure is still bearish at that point. If this happens, then I think that, like, 28K or something like that, that's kind of like the area of interest. I am still of the opinion, like, I am still not of the opinion. I'm still waiting for low 30Ks. I think that's certainly possible for it to come. Kind of the low mid 30Ks is kind of like what I'm looking at, and that's kind of an area that I've like looked at for a while. Usually you get to see that, like, these lower levels tapped a few times before any sort of reversal. I will say that it's interesting to see a lot of this volatility that's coming up right now because, and that's really a good thing in my opinion for any sort of trend reversal. Um, if you note back in May, June, and July, you'll see that that period had a lot of volatility where it was like up and down in the early mid stages of it, of the consolidation. And I would like to see that for this area as well, where we see lots of up and down moves with like decent volatility, followed by a calming period. The calming period will either be up or down. Like in July, it was a down consolidation. Um, Whereas, if you look back at the 6K to 3K drop in 2018, 2019, um, then you really could see a grind up. So, like, kind of chilled out and then like had a slow grind up like that. So either one doesn't really matter to me. All I want to see is lower volatility and low volume for this period. I still am waiting for one last potential shakeout though, so maybe this goes to like low 30Ks, and then we kind of see what happens at that point. But for right now, I really am just looking for the break of these two levels, 46K to 34K. That's it. Because at that point it paints a much clearer picture to me personally, where like the overall structure is clear, um, and you could maybe make arguments before too that um, that we were in a bullish market structure. Like I did see some arguments for that in the sense that people were denoting this move as a high, and then you hit a low, and then you hit a higher high, and then you hit a higher low. But I personally did not really consider this a high, and this is very subjective stuff too. Uh, One thing that was a really good takeaway from me that I got from watching Crypto Cred was that he always says that highs and lows really stand up to you on a chart. And to me, this wasn't really a high. This was more of a dedicated high to me because it moved significantly. It wasn't just like a shitty short consolidation before another move down. This to me showed a significant move from 33K all the way up to 46 or so, and this to me was a more significant high. So that's what I'm denoting as a high. And if we do break 46K, then I think that at that point you can make some arguments for bullish market structure. But um, really, I'm just kind of waiting for a break of these two levels. I'm not really doing anything in the short term. There are some really good coins, which I actually will review now. Let's look at Luna. Luna has been excellent the last few days and weeks. As you notice, it's gone from it basically doubled from like 45 to 100. And this is very impressive given the overall context of the market. The entire market is dumping for the most part, or it's at least chopping. This is really doing quite well. I mean, the fact that you can 2x a coin like this in these market conditions and environment is impressive to me. What we're seeing right now is this swing high level, this all-time high level right at $103. This is proving to be a very strong resistance area as it normally is. These are always good places to take shorts, in my opinion, at least for a scalp short, because you almost always have some sort of reaction, especially given the amount of time spent in between each peak. So, we last saw this back in late December, early January, and now several months later, it's revisiting that level again. Um, Generally, a pretty good area to scalp short. With that said, I'd be a little bit scared to like go balls deep short in this current area, expecting very low levels. And the reason is that because this is so strong that the dips will get bought up very quickly. So if you want to look at some other like indicators, I personally said on Twitter like 78 or something like that. This is an area that I would look to buy if you're being patient. This is just like an SR level, if you can see, and this level already got tested once. But given the EMAs and given how strong this coin is, like I wouldn't be surprised to see this level be just fine if it gets tested again. With that said, there are other levels that are visible on the chart. This is a demand area right around this kind of $85 area, 85 to 86. This is an area of interest, but an entry here would be a little bit aggressive given the overall market conditions, in my opinion. And I'd probably just wait for 75 personally. Um, and if you start to look on some fibs as well, you can start to fib it out. And like this 77 ish area, 78-ish area is like the 0.5. So that's kind of an area that I would look to briefly check out, and probably consider longing. It's kind of like this $78 area. Um, yeah, my experience is best just to be patient in these conditions, and like the $78 area is pretty confluent with this 200 EMA in the 4 hour. So yeah, I would probably just go ahead and wait for that personally. But overall, like the market structure is still bullish to me for Luna, but it could come back and cool off a little bit. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend as well. Thank you so much for the support.